Poland, the challenges of the new games powerhouse. The Witcher, Dying Light, Frostpunk, The Medium, now Outriders, and many more. Well, with nearly 500 releases annually produced by more than 10,000 developers, Poland joined leading game development hubs. But how did the country conquer this space? And what are the challenges? And yes, we are talking about Cyberpunk 2027 situation, how exactly this affects the scene going forward. Well, can Poland be your landing point in Europe internalization? Well, we'll discuss about this in English. So if you want to listen that in Portuguese, please access the right link here at the channel, right? So let's welcome, please, Jakub Marszałkowski. He's a member of council at Indie Games Poland Foundation, and Andrzej Faury. He's CEO at Gameplan. How are you guys?
Hello.
We're doing fantastic.
Jakub, I'm not sure if I said your name in the correct way. I'm so sorry about that. I really tried, okay?
It's Polish, it's Marszałkowski. I know it's difficult to pronounce, yeah.
Yeah, I tried to use my knowledge in German, but, well, anyways. Well, I'm kidding, of course. The screen is yours, please.
Okay, so I'm gonna start. So the idea here is for us to talk a little bit about Poland, about all the opportunities and obviously the challenges that we face. And I'm gonna give you a spoiler to you guys. The challenges are very equal to the ones that we face in Brazil. So I'm gonna start with Jacob. I'm gonna start asking some questions, and I hope they're helpful to understand what's up there. So the first question is the first thing. Actually, I would like for Jacob to introduce himself. Tell him a little bit of his, what he does in Poland, so we can know him a little bit better. So Jacob.
Hello, I'm Jakub Marszałkowski. I'm doing things for Indie Games Poland, which is an industry organization in Poland. We try to help the industry grow. We do teaching, we do organize events, we promote exports and international cooperation and stuff like that. All the things industry organization should do. I also teach at Technical University in Poznań. Obviously, I teach game design, and I also do organize a game industry conference, which is one of the biggest game events in Europe.
Yeah, I do love JC. You know that. I do love.
Right?
I've been, yes, as a speaker. I've been there twice. Once personally, the other one I actually was in Poznan, but it was a virtual, very bizarre because I was there, but there was no physical event, of course. Yeah, the one of the things that I when you start talking is about a little bit of numbers. I know that you have a very interesting report regarding the state of the industry in Poland, so our viewers can understand the state of the industry and why Poland has become such this literally this powerhouse, and along with other main countries in the world. So how Poland did it?
So I'm trying to share my presentation. Can we please see that? It will be a bit easier when I will be speaking. Yes. So that's our 2020 report. Actually, we're working on a new one already. That's the biggest report on the game industry in Poland so far, summarizing the numbers. It's a lot more inside. If you are interested, please, it's open PDF. You can check that on the internet. But let's move to main numbers and let's explain. So that is us, that are the authors of the work. But let's move to the main numbers. So we can start with the consumer market. Consumer market is some 16 million players playing games in Poland, and market worth nearly $600 million. Definitely Brazil is bigger market when you count it as whole, because Brazil is bigger country, but Poland is very good market for PC gaming. Actually, the numbers we found out show that Polish PC gaming market is slightly bigger than Brazilian. So if you are doing PC games, especially PC indie games, would it be Steam? Would it be Unreal? Would it be Epic Store? Would it be GOG Store? You should promote your game in Poland as well. But let us move to the game industry itself. 440 development studios doing games in Poland, nearly 500 releases annually indeed. All the platforms, mobile, PC, and a lot of Switch recently. We switched to do a lot of Switch games in 2019, and I think this trend continues. Nearly 10,000 people working on the game production in Poland. This is what we counted in August 2020. I know this is already over 10,000 because this number is growing all the time. Actually, we see in the employment part growth year over year that is above 20% of people. So the industry was not that far ago 4,000 people, and now is 10,000 people, and it's still growing like crazy. The income is growing quite stably. Here you can see it compared in two kind of bars. So we have obviously CD Projekt Red as the biggest Polish company, and as you can see in 2016, the income of CD Projekt Red was nearly half of the industry. The income of the CD Projekt Red is changing year to year as it goes with game development companies. There is publishing cycle. So 2016 were still big incomes from Witcher 3, and 2019 are first big incomes from pre-releases of Cyberpunk. But then the rest of the industry is also growing and is growing quite stably. The income is growing nearly 30% year over year, and we are expecting that even bigger. It grew even bigger in 2020 with the release of Cyberpunk, of course, but not only. The next numbers that I would like to show you are explaining a little bit more on the Warsaw Stock Exchange, which is interesting and quite unique feature to Polish game industry, and might be one of the factors behind its growth. This is actually old number because the report is August 2020. So now we have 50 studios that are publicly listed on Warsaw Stock Exchange. It means everyone can invest them by getting stock, but it also means they can get funded by being on the stock. The other 390 companies creating some 70% workplaces are, however, still outside of the stock market. So it's important part, but it's still not the majority of the industry. Obviously, the companies have different sizes. This is something like I like also from the scientific part, because it follows this so-called power law. So 20% of companies accumulate 80% of employees and that kind of things. This is this 2080 rule. So we have 10 companies that are above 200 people in Poland, but also we have 30% companies that are 5 people or even fewer. We have some, I put 5.5 or 6 cases of single developer studios where this single developer is capable of producing world achieving games selling in hundreds, thousands of copies. And there is plenty more in the report. If you want to read that, please go to the report. We should probably not spend more time on that. Andre, what would be the next topic?
I would ask you very quickly what, considering that the growth of the industry, despite CD Projekt Red, which is pretty amazing. So CD Projekt Red, remains kind of stable, but the other companies are growing extremely fast. So what are the factors that you imagine that that play a part on that growth is government support, is they being the being easy to go public, lots of lots of investors. What are the factors that really push the industry to that level?
It's hard to to point some simple reasons, some
Of
simple
course.
cases. We are discussing that a lot, and I think there is numerous factors. There are obviously those you mentioned, although we could point that the government support is the newer thing, and the industry was growing already before the support was available. I think that the factor might be, for example, that English in Poland is quite well known, it's quite widely spoken. So I would expect everyone in the industry to be able to use English at least to communicate. Obviously, we have this funny Russian mafia accent like I do, but in this industry, I believe English is quite important. We believe in Poland, we have very good programmers teaching. I do teach them myself at the Technical University in Poznań. This might be a factor, but also we are pointing factors like Polish people being hardworking and success hungry. We had this communist age for a long time where many things were not possible, where we couldn't achieve when there were limitations. And well, obviously, Poland is not as rich as, I don't know, for example, Germany, our next neighbor. But we want to catch up. We want to achieve. We want to make the global success, and we are fighting for that hard. So I would point that as a factor as well. Going down to the industry, I think our industry is quite specific. It's well connected. We are discussing a lot. There are numerous channels of communications. There are events like the ones we already discussed when the industry is meeting, is sharing news, sharing knowledge. I think this created some very nice environment for growth, for happening things. Recently, we find out we grew, or in parallel, actually grew quite big number of universities teaching some game dev, game production related topics. It's 44 universities, over 60 courses that are offered to students in Poland. So if I'm saying we grew from 4,000 to 10,000 people in just few years, maybe this helped. This was the factor that improved that. And yeah, we could probably look for further factors as well.
Of course, one of the things that I learned by my experience with Poland, and one of the things that really makes me passionate about, the Poland's ecosystem, is exactly that you do have a very, very strong community. As you said, the channels, they're not concentrated in one place. So it's just, for example, it's not the Indie Poland Foundation that is indie games Poland that is like concentrating everything. So the effort is everywhere. The effort is around the place. So this ecosystem, this network, makes Poland, a very supportive country as a whole, as a community, to game development. So that is something that really makes makes me passionate about Poland and how it is growing, and yeah, I think it's a much more mature state than I would say we are here, where the initiatives are very punctual and are concentrated into one place or another. Although obviously Brazil is a huge country, but at the same time, I think this is an example that we should follow. To create a more interactive environment and a more supported environment for game developers around the country, and not just in some regions. So really, really fantastic. But at the same time, I know there are challenges, and I wanted for you to just talk a little bit, like 5 minutes, about what is difficult, because we know that it's amazing, right? We know Poland is freaking amazing for game development, but we know there are challenges, and I think people need to have like a real overview of what's going on. It's not that easy, right?
Well, I would guess the challenges are similar in the most industries all around the globe, because yeah, I think what we discussed with others, they seem to be similar. First of all, I would probably point visibility and discoverability for developers and games. There is plenty of games produced globally, and to make gamers find your game, to reach them with your title, with your promotion, it's not really easy. I think from Poland, it's maybe even more difficult comparing to developers that are, for example, in United States, that have closer to media, closer to big publishers, closer to stuff. So this is definitely a challenge. I think the challenge now became even bigger with the lack of physical events, with the lack of expos. The online thing is not working great enough to replace the physical events totally. So I think we all wait for game expos, game conference to come physical back. Right now, the funding and the support system became quite rich. Actually, at some points, we are discussing that there is too much money for game developer. That at some points we discuss that there are too many investors, more investors than studios or something like this. But this is only true above some threshold, when you are big enough as a game studio, as a game producer, to be able to reach for that stuff. On the beginners level, on the first studio after finishing school, on the level of new studio starting with new games, still being funded, finding budget to be able to produce games and do stuff is still difficult. And this, I think, also is a global problem. Maybe even a global problem is that the funding is not that easy everywhere, but some factors changed in Poland. And if you are, I don't know, 15 people plus and have one successful or quite successful, by successful I mean finished, not selling 1 million copies, but developed till the very end. One title, actually you can find funding to expand, to grow, or something like this. And maybe the third challenging factor I would point would be a limited number of experienced developers to hire for the companies. Again, problem probably happening everywhere. Maybe in Poland a little bit more because the industry is young, so it's difficult to find people with 10 or 15 years of experience if most of the people are in the industry for 3 or 5 years. Again, this problem is probably shared by all the industries all around the world.
Yep, as you said, these are issues that are shared. We have the same issue here. Students that are starting, they're normally bootstrapped. It's there's kind of a discussion about this where investors say that studios are they not worry enough, or are not prepared. They not prepare themselves for investment, but on the other side, no one is teaching them to be prepared. Actually, you have some people dedicated to that, but definitely not. It's definitely we need more of that. And on the other side, the studios complain that money is not available. So I think yeah, same thing, right? So I think we have like 5 minutes. You want to ask me something?
Yes, I wanted to ask you, because we've met in Poland last year, because you're starting business in Poland. So where you got this idea from, and how is this going?
So okay, so I'm gonna tell the production that I'm gonna share my screen. So can you unshare your screen, Jacob?
Oh, I need to unshare mine. Sure.
Yes.
Should be done.
Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen, production. So here I go. So I'm gonna talk a little bit very quickly about our reasons to be in Poland. So maybe people get inspired or something, and it was why we made this decision, right? So let me put it here. Okay, so we decided to open a company in the beautiful, beautiful city of Poznan. There are very different reasons for that. I'm gonna go there in a second. But just for you guys to say, this is the city. Look, it's beautiful. I love Poznan. And this is our office. So this is the space of our office. Obviously, we are in a co-working, but this is the co-working, which is we have a room there. So we have our office inside this environment, which is very modern and very, it's actually incredible. It's the best co-working I have ever seen. And this is the city. It's a lovely place. And why Poland, right? So first, the strategic position in Central Europe. We can reach anywhere very easily from Poznan. We are like 2 hours, 2.5 hours by train from Berlin. If you get the right train, it's 1 hour and a half. The zloty, the currency is very similar to the value of the Brazilian real. So for those trying to invest in Europe, I'm not going to open an office in Europe. Euro is a big problem for us because of the devaluation of real, and the zloty is it's a very similar position as the Brazilian real, so makes investment easier. You guys are part of the European Union, although it's cheaper because of the zloty to establish a business in Poland than to go to Germany, for example, would be like 7 times more expensive. It's the easy access to funding. So you said about this. The difficulty of getting funding, but at the same time you have no idea what that is in Brazil. So I'm as a Brazilian, I found it easy to actually assess some of the programs of funding in Poland, because here is so damn difficult. We have partnerships in all levels. So I was very well received by community. You is an example, a beautiful example. We've always, had these amazing conversations with me, the academia, city of Poznan, the state of Wielkopolska. Obviously, we're talking about a powerhouse of games development, so this is very important for Game Plan. Game is a government priority. It's a very new thing, but it became a priority, and that's very important. The bureaucracy is very similar to Brazil, so you won't get, we didn't get. I personally in my team didn't get scared when we saw all the paperwork, because we do the same thing here. It's beautiful. I think it's beautiful. So it's a very important thing. You need to be comfortable where you are in the world, and I'm choosing a place to be, the company to be, not just because of technical reasons, but also it's a great place to work, it's a great place to be. And me personally, it's cold and I love it. So yeah, so it's
I smiled when I found this last point that it's cold and you love it. Well, it's not always cold. The summers can be hot.
I know.
Continental climate, so you can get 36 degrees in Poland in summer as well. But also we have winters which are much colder, and we can get rainy. Have you been properly rained down in Poland already?
Yes, I have. So my last trip to Poland, I got like 100% rain. It was no sunny days, just rain. And and it was cold and rainy. So for me, I love it. So I don't like heat or something. So the other thing that I want to really talk about really quick is partnerships. We are key. So I wanted to really thank the Indie Games Poland Foundation, you personally, who always been so encouraging, Apex Brazil, and the Embassy of Brazil in Poland. They're so supportive. We would never be able to do this without Apex, and without the Innovation Diplomacy Program. So I want to thank them so much. The Brussels office of Apex, Madalena, and everyone. I really appreciate your support. The Polish-Portuguese Chamber of Commerce in Poland, it gave me a lot of support. The city of Poznan, the state of Wielkopolska, the region of Wielkopolska, and right now is great to announce that we have an agreement with College Da Vinci. We hope to have one with, sooner than later with, the Polytechnica University. Also, because what we are doing in Poland is basically research, development, and innovation. So it's kind of the different branch of game plan. We do obviously business development, the management of our European clients, and we're going to use Poznan as a gateway to Europe and Asia as soon as things get back to normal. And hopefully it will be sooner than later. A little bit where to find game plan, but I think this is us. Thank you so much, Jacob, for taking your time to talk a little bit about Poland. And I think we are ready for questions. I'm going to unshare my screen right now. Where do I do this? Stop sharing. There. We're ready for questions. So first question, I already have some questions here. Besides Digital Dragons Incubator, do you know any other game exclusive incubation programs in Poland? What are your thoughts about this model of ecosystem development?
I would actually go back to the challenges that I pointed out, and I would again say this is still a challenge. So incubation or acceleration, for me to be a complete program, would require some financial help for the developers in the super early phase. And actually, I don't think any of this program is doing that. Digital Dragons Incubator, I would see more like teaching and mentorship program, which is also very good and very fine and very needed. But this is, I think, the part we are still missing mostly in Poland. So incubation, so funding for the studios in the very, very early stage. So no, it's challenge. It's not solved.
Okay, perfect. So I think we're done. We're out of time, unfortunately, for more questions. We have one more question, but maybe I can share that with you later, and we can answer the person directly. So thank you so much, everyone, for this panel about Poland. Thank you so much, Jacob, for your time, and I hope to see more interaction between our countries in the as soon as this pandemic thing is over, but during the pandemic as well. And keep an eye for GIC.
If you want to do business in Poland, please reach me.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jacob and Andre.
Thank you. Thank you.
Big Festival 2021, the biggest games festival in Latin America.